So in this video, we're going to quickly create a simple web page, and we're going to go over some of the concepts about creating a web page to make it extremely fast and extremely simple. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you need to know is that creating a web page is just like writing a letter to someone. You just got to know the rules, right? So when you're writing a letter to someone, you got to know what a paragraph is. You got to know what the header is, the title. You even have to know the person's name, and you have to know the language that the person speaks, because if you don't write it in their language, they're not going to be able to understand it. Okay, so if we could think of that analogy, then we really understand how to create a web page. All we need to know is the language and some of the concepts that are used. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start writing a letter. And we're going to do that in like something like a notepad, or there's a program called Notepad++. So if you're on your computer at home, you can do it on something like that. But let's keep it even more simple and use something that we know everyone already has, like the Notepad in Windows, or the text editor inside of a Mac. So on my desktop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create myself a new folder. So I'm going here, a new folder. You don't see my folder here because I have all my icons hidden. So I'm going to have to go inside of my Explorer and look for my folder. But if you see yours, that's fine. It's going to be exactly the same thing. So I'm going to go to my desktop, and I should see that new folder there. Okay, sorry, I renamed the wrong folder. So I'm going to rename this folder. I'm going to rename this folder right here. That's my new folder. My HTML. And then I'm going to go inside of that folder, and what I want to be able to do in this folder is go ahead and add myself a simple notepad file. So go ahead and search for notepad and open that up. And now we have ourselves a blank notepad here. And before I do anything, I need to understand that a website or a web page is recognized by the extension that it is named. So if I were to save this, and I were to leave this extension here, txt, my computer would know, okay, open that up in Notepad. Okay, so, but if I had a doc, it would say, okay, open that up in something like Word. And each extension will tell the computer what you want to open that file as most of the time. As far as a web page goes, that's going to be something like an HTML.html. So that's what we want to go ahead and name our file. And in my case, I want to make sure I name that in the proper folder where this is. So I remember I had it on the desktop, and now I'm going to go here to my HTML, and I can go ahead and name this. Now, the thing you need to understand also is when people go to the web page, when they go to their first when they go to any website, most of the time, it's going to direct them to a default main page. And that default main page is normally called index. So we're going to go ahead and name ours index. It's like saying home.html. The second thing we need to do, if we are using Notepad here, is that we need to make sure we're not saving that as a text type. We're going to go ahead and take that down to all. And then we're going to go over here to the encoding. And then we're going to bring that to UTF-8. Once we're done with that, we can then hit save. Now you'll notice, even though, see, this is open here and it's in Notepad, when I look over here, .html, we have an icon, and it's going to be with your default browser icon that's going to be there. If I were to double click this, it's going to automatically open up Chrome with my my first web page in there. So even though there's nothing here, there's a web page there, and you can see where this web page goes. It goes directly to my folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my browser open so I can always refresh my web page. And let's talk for a second about what a web page really is and how it's actually created. The syntax. Remember, we used the analogy of the letter to someone. The letter to someone requires a lot of things that the person needs to be able to understand in order to read your letter. And it's the same thing with a web page. So I want you guys to look at this really quick. For every web page created, you first need to know what language you're using. That's basically what this is up here, that doc type. And these are called tags. See these greater than and less than signs with the information in there? All of those are tags. And every web page is made of tags. So they all start off with a tag and they all have an end tag. So if you look at this view that I have here, the red box, it's the HTML. Inside of the red is the body, and inside the body are these divs, these H1s, and my content. So you'll notice one thing, that every tag has to have a closing tag. And that's one of the main things you have to remember with HTML, that every tag must have a closing tag. Here's a tag with a closing tag. So if I can remember that, I'll be doing myself a really good favor. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink that, and I'm going to go ahead and start off with creating my first tag there. So my first tag is always going to be like any letter. You got to know what language you are writing in, and that's basically what this tag is. That's not 100% what it's for, but just for the sake of argument and for the sake of us moving forward, actually, let's go ahead and just write that. And in every page that you have, you're going to write this. In a way, it's telling us that this is HTML5, and that's what we're typing in right now. So I'm going to put doc type, and I'm going to put HTML. And HTML5 recognizes that. And if I save this, and then I go back to my web, my Chrome, and I refresh this, you'll notice that I still don't see anything here. And most browsers are built with a code viewer or an HTML viewer. And normally what you would do, especially like with Chrome, you would hit F12. Now I hit F12, and you'll notice here that it wrote an HTML tag for me. It wrote a head tag, a body tag, and a closing HTML tag. But what it also wrote is this doc type here. Because what Chrome is doing is, even if I were to open up something inside of Chrome that was not an HTML, it would still write this for me, because it assumes that, that's the only thing it reads. It reads HTML. It reads web pages. And so it would assume that. So it wrote that for me when there was nothing else there. And so that's a really good thing to know, that that's the language of this browser. But I really want mine written in here. I don't want the browser writing it for me. I don't want to have to trust that the browser is going to write it for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my open tag. That's a greater than and less than sign. Less than and greater than sign, whichever way you want to look at it. And then I am going to create my closing less than and greater than sign, and I'm going to put a slash in there. Now I do this so I never ever forget that I need to always close my tags. Once I do that, I'm going to write HTML, and then I'm going to write over here HTML. Now, just like my example that I gave you guys here, I have my open HTML and I have my close HTML, and that's that red box. So now what I want to do, so I got that red box set, and I'm just going to change this to something like that. So we got that one. Now let's go, and we also got this one, so I'm going to change that style to something like that. Now what we need to do is create our body inside of the HTML. And I'm going to create, and maybe I'll just leave this on the side so that way we can see this on the side while we do this. So now inside of here, I'm going to create my body tag. And I like to indent it, so I'm going to hit the tab, and then I'm going to create my open and close, and I'm going to put my slash in the last one, and then I'm just going to write body. And now, if I hit save, you'll notice nothing has changed here. Even if I refresh, nothing is really changed, because we haven't written any content. But technically, this is all you need to actually have a web page. It may not be the best designed web page, but you do actually have a web page. So let's try something here. Let's try to change this from index.html to title. Okay, so I'm going to go here in my HTML tag, inside of what's called the head tag. So I'm going to go ahead and write myself a head tag. and I'm going to close my head tag. Now inside of this head tag, I want to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys that the format really doesn't matter here. So inside of my head tag, I am going to write a title. So open and close. I'm going to close that slash, and I'm going to write a title here. And I'm going to close my title as usual. And inside that title, I'm going to put my web. And then I'm going to save that. Now when I go here and I refresh, you'll notice that this tab here, my title, has changed. And the only thing here that I did inside of my diagram is I have my body, and you notice here I don't have my head tag here because I can still run this web page without a head tag. It's not good to do that. You want the proper format. But basically what I did was, let's say if I took one of these, I'm going to take an open and closing tag. And right before the body, I created a head tag. And let me change the style of that. And inside this head tag, what I did was I created a, oops, let me, inside that head tag, I created a title tag. And let me, and inside the title tag, what I did was I added. So this visualization should help you guys out to see that all I'm doing is adding these boxes in a way. I'm adding boxes by opening and closing these tags. Right now I don't have anything in the body tag, but basically I've already done this part right here. I've done all of this part right here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and close that out. Now all I need to do is add my body. I have my body tag, so I can go ahead and close that out there. Now all I need to do is add my div tag, which is another container, just like everything else. And then I'm going to add an h1 tag. So inside my body, I'm going to go ahead and add a div tag. And of course, we know we have to open and close it. And I like to do that early just in case I forget. Because if you forget, it still might render, but you can run into a lot of problems later on. And that's the thing about HTML, is that the browser might try to fix some stuff for you, but you may not know that later on that was fixed. And then as you move forward in your coding or development, you're going to run into some problems. So inside of this div tag, I can go ahead and hit enter there, make some space, and inside this div tag, and I'm going to push this div over just a little bit because it's inside of the body. Now the reason why I format things this way is because it's easier to read. You want to make sure that things are easier to read. You don't want your code or your HTML all smashed up in one area where it's hard to read. So I'm going to hit H1 there, and I'm going to slash H1 to close that. And these are standard, HTML tags. And so I'm going to go here and I'm going to write hello web. Oops. And first, let me write hello web without the H1, just so you can see how that looks. And I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to go back to my web page, and I'm going to refresh that, and I have hello web right there. Awesome. Now I want to show you what the H1 tag does. We can alter this. Our content is the same, but we can alter our content by adding these kind of tags here. So that H1 surrounds hello web, as you can see here. And so first, let me go ahead and close these off. Finalize those. Perfect. Now we have our first web page. We're done. But let me show you what this H1 tag does. If I click on that H1 tag and I hit refresh, as you can see here, it changed everything. Now, if I were to hit F12 on my keyboard, what you will notice here is inside now my body tag, I have a div tag. And as I scroll my mouse over it, you'll notice up here that it's selecting the area that the content currently is in. And if I scroll down inside of that div tag, you'll see I have an H1 tag. And in that H1 tag, I have my hello. Awesome. We just now finished our first web page. Now, we didn't add a lot of things like links and background color. We could do all of that stuff, and it's fairly straightforward, exactly like what we did right now. But this is just to get you started. As a matter of fact, if you really want an awesome resource and you really want to go over some tutorials by yourself, what I would suggest is going to this w3school.com, and they have HTML, they have CSS, they have JavaScript, they have everything that you could probably imagine in regards to web and the best practices in order to develop a web page. So as you can see here, they have all the same stuff that we have, except they separated. They have a separate H1 tag here plus a paragraph tag here. Technically, if I were to just take this right here and copy this and put it into my document, and this is a cool thing about HTML, that I can just take this and just paste it into my document, hit save, go back here and refresh, and now you see I have all of that in my document. That's awesome. All right, so I hope this helps you guys out. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time.